Hi everybody, Jackie Grant here from Break Free Consultancy. So getting a lot of questions about how do I invoice and how do I know what to charge. So really quickly, if you haven't got it, get the price arrangement, the price guide. It tells you exactly how you can invoice, what qualifications you need to have to invoice, and the line item number to quote. Now, the maximum there rate was set for companies to cover their admin team and their work cover and things like that. Sole traders rarely get work cover because it's very hard to cover given that they're working in different environments, but companies are expected to have it. Just as all businesses are expected to have a wellbeing program, whether sole trader or not. Different topic. So my inbox is just getting full with this question and another question as well, on which is, how do I run my business and can't I do it even though I'm a hairdresser? Can't I work as a support worker? Potentially no. The way NDIS is going, qualifications are required at some point, which brings me to the SHADS award. The SHADS award and the rate that is invoiced, is paid to a staff member is different to what is invoiced to the NDIA. They often don't match, and often companies are struggling because there is a big difference. So the way the SHADS award has been designed is to pay staff members based on their qualifications. So having that qualification as a disability worker and aged care worker, as well as the experience that a person has had. Now, the disability sector is one of the only sectors that I have been able to find that actually allows for unqualified people to work in it. That is changing, and companies are being told that their staff need to be qualified. As a sole trader, to invoice your participant, yes, you can do the maximum rate, but you also have the option to be flexible in what you invoice your participants. When you break it down, in some instances, you're not getting much more than under the SHADS award, but you're getting a lot more responsibility legally and duty of care. So how do you invoice? If you do an active overnight shift, so that shift might start at 10 p.m. and you're active, then the rate changes from midnight and it goes into the next day, and the rate is also different from, say, Friday night to Saturday morning. They're two different rates. If you are doing an inactive, so a sleepover, it is a flat rate irrespective of what day it is, just a straight flat rate. Now that's as a sole trader. As an employee, that is completely different. It's by the SHADS award, and the company sorts that out. So often what is happening in some of these groups, and I'm seeing the question over and over again, and when people write it to me, they go, my employer's not paying me this flat rate. Okay, well, you have to have that discussion with them in alignment with the SHADS award. So under NDIA, in the price arrangement, and it's easily found on the NDIS website as well, a day shift is 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. The evening shift is 8 p.m. until midnight, and active overnight is midnight to 6 a.m. Okay? It is very clear that that's what it is. Now, if someone's shift goes from 4 p.m. until 9 p.m., two things should occur. One, the conversation should be had that once it clicks into 9 p.m., and I'm talking sole trader here, okay? I'm not talking SHADS award, I'm talking sole traders. When it goes into 9 p.m., you let them know that that's now a different rate, and you break it up accordingly to what's in the price arrangement. Now, a lot of people will say, of course you can charge the whole evening shift or the whole from that started at 8 p.m, even though you're finishing at 9, that you can charge that for the entire time. The participants' funding is potentially not planned for that. In fact, the participants' funding may have been planned that that shift would finish at 8 p.m, and nobody kind of realized that, and the participant, well, it will work better for me to finish at this time. Okay, and what happens is when nobody's picked this up and people start overcharging, which is considered overcharging when you charge the whole lot all the way back, so from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. is one rate, but if you charge it at the higher rate, the participant will run out of funding, then you don't get paid. Because very rarely when a new plan occurs, that new plan is moving forward not to cover what had happened beforehand, especially when they run out of funding. There's no gap filling there. The only way to get paid when a participant's run out of funding is to have in your service agreement who pays if in the event that funding is run out or NDIA refuse the invoice. Now, moving forward, there is a trial on how things will be paid and worked out to make sure that the fraud stops and the overcharging stops, and that is PACE. And the way that will work, and it is being trialled in Tasmania at the moment, is that there's two ways. So if the service provider is not pre-approved, right? So that, and pre-approved for invoices to be paid, will have evidence that this is what will be invoiced. So a schedule of services will be provided with line item numbers and the rates. And those rates will be in alignment with the price arrangement and the times. So when something finishes at 8 p.m, it moves into the next stage, okay? And then a timesheet and invoice is submitted, so evidence that that shift occurred, plus the invoice, and then that will be processed quite quickly because that's all been pre-approved. Service agreement, schedule of support, it's all there, and it all matches the price arrangement and NDIS guidelines. That should turn around quite quickly. But the one that will take a minimum of 10 working days is where that schedule of support hasn't been submitted with a service agreement. The services are not pre-approved. So then a timesheet, so evidence that the shift occurred, and the invoice is submitted, and it needs to all have all the details such as the line item number, the rate, all in alignment with the price arrangement, and the turnaround of that can be 10 business days. So when you're planning your invoicing and how do I charge, all of it should be in your service agreement before you do the shift, because the participant has to agree to it, or if someone's signing on their behalf, their advocate, they have to agree to it before you start the shift. That includes travel. So if you decide to charge a person travel from your home to the shift, which is not how travel allowance works, then you are taking away some core funding, so core support. So you may find that as it gets closer to the plan finishing, your hours are cut back. And that happens because of overcharging. The plans are set for the actual service with the participant. So if you take them out driving around, of course you can charge travel. Yes, the participant's in the car with you. If you're charging them to drive from your house and it's 30 minutes or something, then that is chewing up their funding and they're not with you. If you charge between participants, which is allowed, which participant are you charging and who is agreeing to it? It must be agreed upon with the participant or the informal support, whoever is signing the service agreement. So you work all of this out before you go ahead and do a shift. Now, as an employee, it is completely different. It's got nothing to do with the NDIS price arrangement. It's got everything to do with the SHADS award. And if your company that you work for, if you're feeling that you're not being paid the right rate, bear in mind, what are you checking it against? The best way to find out if you're being paid at the right rate is to either speak with Fair Work Or look at the SHADS award, because that is the award they are supposed to pay you at. The other thing is, before you sign a contract, check that the hourly rate that they're offering you is what you feel you should be entitled to. Ask them about the different shifts. Say, do I get paid differently for evening shift? Like, how are you paying me? Are you paying me at a flat rate? You know, all of that. What bracket are you taxing me at? Everything. Ask them before you sign the contract, because once you sign your contract, to change anything, you're going to potentially have to involve Fair Work, but you're at least going to have to go back to the SHADS award. Okay, so two separate things. SHADS award and is employee wages, and what a sole trader or what the company invoices NDIA for the participant services. Two separate things. They do not match necessarily. So the evening shift of what is invoiced to NDIA is different to what the support worker will be paid as an employee. So when you ask your questions in groups, maybe specify, like this video is meant to help with this, but maybe specify I'm an employee. And the other thing, just on that note, to be mindful of is a lot of companies will have a confidentiality policy that you may have signed, in which case you are not allowed to discuss wages, and because that's considered company business in a public forum. So that's just something to be mindful of, that companies will have policies and procedures around what can be discussed in public forums about the business. And I have heard of people being disciplined because they've put up, my boss isn't paying me the fair amount, and their name is there and it's in a public forum, and they've breached confidentiality clause and policy of the company. So it's important to read your company's policies and procedures as well. Just as a side note, just to protect you, I'd hate for anybody to have to face disciplinary action just because they had some questions. I get it. We all have questions, and asking them is great. I wake up to an inbox of about 100 messages a day around all of this. How to run an NDIS business, questions around NDIA, questions about participants, questions about invoicing, questions about what do I need to be registered, and I'm happy to help with all of it. That's my business. That's how I keep a roof over my head. And if you'd like to know more, reach out. I have masterclasses once a month. So this is to help you, and take your time with it. Please take your time and read the price arrangement. It is there. It is how NDIA will determine whether you have overcharged or not. So it is a guide that they refer to for all payments. Self-managed, completely different topic. So we're just sticking with the plan managed at the moment, but self-managed people can invoice, be paying a lot more, but they're still going to run out of funding anyway. They've only got X amount of funding. So yes, it's good to ask questions. If you were an employee, think about your question first, knowing that your boss may see it. And as a sole trader or somebody wanting to start up, yes, you can book a time with me. We can go through things of how I can help you. And as I said, there is the masterclasses, but it's so important that you read that price arrangement. I hope this helps.